Leaders play a massive part in my fishing, particularly the lead-free variety. So I'm going to talk you through how and why I use them. So the lead-free product I'm referring to is our submerged leader. It's available in a 30, 45 and 60 pound breaking strain. Because the submerged is lead-free, it means it's much more supple than a standard lead core leader. It's very flexible and very heavy, so it will hug the contours of the bottom, unlike some other leaders. I used to use fluorocarbon leaders, which are great for invisibility, but they haven't got that suppleness that submerged has got. To be honest, since we brought the 60 pound out, this is the only one I use now. 60 pound might seem a little bit scary, but it's more to do with the properties that we talked about earlier on. It's increased in diameter, which means it's thicker. Because it's thicker, it's heavier. Because it's heavier, it means it's more likely to be more supple and hug the bottom even better. So in my fishing, when I want to ensure that everything is completely pinned down around the lead and all my end tackle, the 60 pound version is my choice. So the best way of attaching these woven leader materials is by splicing them. Submerged is even easier to splice than lead core because the fibres aren't as tightly woven. But a couple of top tips for you is to use the blue needle if you're using the 30 pound version, and then for the 45 and the 60 pound version, use the yellow gated latch needle. So I'll show you just how easy it is to splice up. So I'm using the 60 pound version at the moment and the yellow needle. I like to use about a full needle length. It's a personal preference, it's entirely up to yourselves. So I double it up along the needle to give me the correct length, and then you push the needle point in to the centre of the submerge, turn it, and then start threading it along the needle. So like I say, because I've doubled the length, I'm going to thread it on virtually all the way to the bottom of the needle, and then you just poke the needle through, ensure that the latch has come through, and then fold it over the end, push the latch over, and then gently tease it in, give it a little twist, just encourage it to pull it through, and then slowly pull it back through itself. When you get to the end, just pull it through gently. You just want to expose the bit that's coming through. And you'll see at this point here, it's a little bit bunched up. You want to open this out and tighten it up. Put the needle back through the loop at the end. Tease it all back again. And you should lose the tag end inside. If you haven't, then just pull a little bit more through. And then just pull it back on itself. And it should stay nice and neat. So that's the end that we want to tie our main line to. At the other end, if you want to splice on a bead or a swivel, then when we get to this stage, when we just push the needle through, we want to thread the swivel on to the leader itself, pull it on, and then we finish the splice off by putting it back through the gated latch needle and then pulling it through the leader itself again. Same as before, pull it through, tease it through. At this point here, I want to really tighten that loop up, so I'm going to pull on that tag end, tighten it up against the swivel, and then pull it all back again. Notice the tag end's coming out, so what I'm going to do is just pull a little bit more of that through, snip it off, and then pull the bunched up area back again to neaten it all off. So with any kind of leader, you've got the usual leg clip setup, which people tend to favour. However, I don't really use that a great deal in my fishing these days. I tend to use one of three depending on whatever situation I'm fishing. So you've got the running lead setup that you've seen me use in the past with fluorocarbon, although these days I'm pretty much exclusively using it with a 60 pound submerged, featuring the angled drop-off clip and the angled bead. This can be used by plugging it with the T-bar, or we can use PVA to ensure that the lead does come free. I'll use this when I'm fishing on a relatively clean bottom or an area which is clean and free of debris. I might be using it with wafters or bottom baits or something, but it just gives me that something a little bit different to pretty much what everybody else is using. I've got an inline setup which I use pretty much with all my solid bag fishing. This features the inline drop-off insert. At the moment it's only available in a size that will fit the 30 pound submerged, but later on this year we're releasing a big bore version which will fit the 45 and the 60 pound submerged. I've got this one on an impact inline. and you can see that when the fish picks it up, it can pull the plug free, and then it can just drop the lead off. Then the final lead setup, which I use quite often, to be honest, is a helicopter style. So if I'm fishing somewhere that's quite silty, or there's a little bit of weed around, or even if I'm fishing to or casting to fish that are showing and I'm not entirely sure what the bottom is, then I'll fish the helicopter setup. This features a tungsten bead to stop the hook length flying up the leader, a little bit of leader silicone which the tungsten bead just sits on, only enough just to stop the hook length from flying up, but can easily just pull off the top if you get into any kind of trouble. A quick change O-ring which I can attach my hook length to, and then here we've got a new product that's due out later on this year. This is a heli buffer bead. It works in the same principle as the angle drop off does, in that the leader is passed through and tied onto the end of the bead, and then the lead can be inserted into the bead. It can either be plugged by a T-bar, or like with the angle drop off, we can put a little bit of PVA through it. And this means that if you're fishing anywhere it's weedy or the lead catches in, it'll just release and pull free. There's enough tension in that to bring the lead back on a miscast or recasting at any point in time, and there's just the right amount of tension to ensure that the lead stays in until it either touches something or a fish shakes its head and it pulls it free. So those are my 3 favoured lead setups. The one constant throughout it all is the 60-pound submerge. Regardless of the situation of fishing or the lead setup that I'm fishing in, I'm 100% confident that because of that heavy, thick, supple, weighted leader, that everything is pinned down around the lead. So it's giving me the best possible chance of getting a pickup.